Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Debate Dissection, where we're doing an autopsy on the latest and the greatest debates. This one is definitely one of the latest, and I would argue not one of the greatest, but here we are. I'm feeling very presidential. Are you feeling very presidential, Ems? Are you feeling very political and American?
I mean, alas, I am American. I'm stuck here for the time being, so I'm
Yeah.
hoping for, the side that's less insane.
Well, I mean, no one cares about the Australian election from America. No one really cares about other countries. This is sort of the big one of the world, really. I mean, people sort of say, "Hey, why you're Australian? Why do you care?" And it's like, well,
Mhm.
America is sort of a very dominant force around the world, and a lot of times you see sort of people take cues, like when there's an insane right wing conservative idiot that springs up in America, you'll find one in other countries as well. Everyone takes their cues from America, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's really bad.
Yeah,
But
we're still seeing the damage from the last time the orange fellow was in
mhm,
charge in
yeah,
other countries around the world.
mhm. No, I totally agree. But yeah, this one is I did cut it down a little bit. It wasn't all. Like, I think it was a
Okay.
large, amount of time, but I just kept it to the debate. There was a bit of commentary at the end and stuff. I just cut that out. The ads, of course, I cut that out. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I will get this lined up. Is there anything we gotta go through before we start this review and, this coverage?
I think everybody pretty much knows what's going on with this one. It's not our
Yeah.
normal pseudoscience religious nonsense. It's a political
Mm,
debate, but
yes.
there's some
Well,
hilarious moments.
oh, it's quite funny. I did the last one as well. I think that you were busy for that one because for some reason I held it in the middle of the week. It was like on a Wednesday or something. Totally not usual time for either of us essentially, which you couldn't make, and that's totally understandable. But that one was weird, very very weird. This one was more because I have seen this. I did watch it with my wife. I was thinking of doing a live stream, but it just sort of I wasn't feeling great at the time, and I had
Same.
a sore throat. Just yeah, I just decided against. I can't remember why exactly, but I watched with my wife, and it caused a great deal of consternation. I was actually like frustrated with the whole thing, and I'll explain why as we go through, and I'll point out exactly why. And it was the same reason. If you did see my coverage of the first one, it was the same reason as the first one, why I was frustrated in the first one. And I'll definitely go through and show you all of that. But I suppose we should just get started then if you are ready to rumble, if you're ready to roll.
Hell yeah, let's do this.
All right, let's do it.
Kamala Harris. Have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
So right
Welcome to
off
you
the
both. It's
bat,
wonderful to have you.
she
Yes.
starts dominating. She's the one who she gets into his space, confronts him with a
Mhm.
friendly professional handshake, and makes him react to her. And I don't know.
Well,
I enjoyed it.
I think it's sort of becoming of somebody who's engaging in its debate to at least be cordial. If you
Mhm.
can't be cordial during the debate because you are totally opposed to what they say, at least be cordial, when you're not discussing the debate topics. And I think that makes, like, I think Trump would probably see that as a sign of weakness, that you're being friendly. He wouldn't be friendly to someone he has an issue with, but she can. And that's the thing. Like in politics, you're going to have people in power in part of the country. You're going to have an issue with them. You can't just be an ass to them because you have an issue with them. Like you've got to be political. You've got to be polite, even though you've got, and this
Diplomatic.
is diplomatic, right? You have to be. And Trump doesn't understand that. And I think it's really powerful the way that she went up. And it just looks good that you're willing to go up and, shake the other person's hand essentially. But he was not expecting that.
Because he wouldn't do it. It's not
Because
in
he
his
wouldn't do
nature.
it. Right.
It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person.
Okay, so first off, I'm not sure what that's got to do with the question. Like, I don't know what that's got to do with the question at all.
Yeah, like she could be gearing up for a roundabout personal anecdote sort of answer, or she could be setting up for a deflection.
Yes.
On this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to startup small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before.
Okay, so yeah, she's stepping up. She's sidestepping because she's not answering the question. Are you better off than 4 years ago?
Right. She's
that
talking
was
about
the
her
question.
plan, and they
Right,
are
she's
good
talking about her plan.
plans. Like they're
Yes.
not spectacular. Oh well, okay. The business credit is pretty damn big compared to.
Yes.
We currently have something like a $10,000 credit, and so it is an improvement. But she's not actually answering this question. However, I will note that a lot of the criticisms about this debate is that she never presented policy, and her very first answer, she's dropping policy.
No, that absolutely I would not agree with. She's not presenting policy. She's not directly answering the question. I would have liked just touch on it a second, whether that people are better off, because even though Fox News is saying the economy is bad and stuff, that is not what the actual figures say. The economy is actually really strong at the moment. What they've got to do is leverage that strength of economy into benefit for ordinary people. And I think she could have sort of propped up the economy and said, well, yeah, people are actually better off than a weak economy, even though inflation is a problem. And here's how we address it to make sure. Yeah, I think she could have answered that better, to be honest.
Yeah, it looks weak the way she dodged. Because she really could have said, there are problems, to be sure, but here are some things that show progress, that show things are getting better. For instance, the highest rate of job creation in 50 fucking years.
Right, exactly. That's, and the only place that's sort of saying that the economy is terrible is Fox News, these right-wing news outlets. And I don't know why there isn't a standard for telling the truth in America. Why they can just say whatever they want. It's insane.
Well, that was political too. We used to have a thing called the fairness doctrine, which is to say you had to present the actual facts. And when there was controversy, you had to present both sides fairly within context. Like, say, you couldn't present a flat earther and a globe earther and say they're both equal. You had to present the factual context around it. And the Republicans did away with that. They were like, this is killing our political position. So we need to just make it so we can just lie about everything on our own channels. It's fine.
All right. Well, that's fun. That's fun.
To provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after
Yeah, so is tariffs a tax on people? It's not a tax. So here's where it gets murky, because she's talking like, oh, he's going to tax the goods directly, like a sales tax kind of thing. And that's not true, but that's not what she's sort of saying. Any tariff that you put on products made overseas, usually the company doesn't just eat the tax and say, sorry, shareholders, we're not going to make so much money this year round. You know, sucks to be you. That's not what they do. They increase the cost of their prices to reflect the increased cost to producing and selling that product. That's usually what happens. I still think it's slightly incorrect. I think that you could, if you were Harris, sort of say, hey, he's going to put a tariff that will be passed on to the consumer. I think that that's really important, that she's not sort of making it sound like it's a sales tax, because it isn't a sales tax.
Right. That's just a political spin. It's an easy to digest way, because a lot of people, particularly on the right, have no idea what a tariff is or how it works. He did something similar last time. He's proposing even higher tariffs this time. Instead of 10 billion, it'll be 20 billion. But last time, the tariff impact was so bad, we had to do a multi-billion-dollar bailout of farmers, because we kind of need food, and they couldn't afford to function because of the increase in operating cost because of the tariffs. Because they get paid by Americans, not by the people who are exporting to America.
75 years pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China.
Is that true?
Well, the last I looked, Trump's tariffs did bring in approximately $80 billion, but it was from Americans, not from China. I don't know if his tariff is still in force.
Yeah, Chinese companies would just up their prices to reflect the cost of doing business. That they're not sort of like, well, we'll just eat this tariff. No, it gets reflected in the pricing structure. If you're actually in a corporation, you're aware of all of this. Like, you kind of just if you get hit by a tariff, all that you do is either A, reduce the cost of manufacturing, which usually results in substandard products, so it's not necessarily the way you want to go, or you adjust your pricing to reflect the cost of production. That's basically how it works. So the higher and higher prices may be a result of Trump's sort of, the tariffs.
Oh, yeah, that absolutely could be a driving factor behind inflation. We know that his dumping huge amounts of newly created money out of thin air into the money supply, that's a gigantic factor behind inflation. Like, so much of what's happening right now is because of the snowball he started rolling back in 2020 and 2021. These things do take a little while sometimes.
China and other places, they've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen.
No one knows. I don't think anyone really refers to inflation as a country buster. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know
in
what
fact,
he means by that.
In our case specifically, it's intentional. We had a whole election back in the 1890s about whether we wanted an inflationary or deflationary economy. The gold standard debates, and there were slogans, a whole big thing. And we opted for an inflation-based one because that's capitalism. Things have to constantly grow forever. So inflation is a feature, not a bug. The fact we keep having constant crashes, whoops.
Yeah.
before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently.
Yes,
What the
armed
hell is
militias
he
marching
talking
in the
about?
streets. Oh, wait, that was Trump's presidency also. Never mind.
What has this got to do with the economy? Like, he's basically blaming inflation and the economy on immigrants of all things. I don't understand. Like,
Well,
yeah,
that's-
you've got illegals there, but they generally work for very, very small amounts of money in jobs that Americans generally don't want to do. So, what?
Well, that's sort of like, that's how he talks, is he doesn't have a cohesive train of thought. Never, ever does he finish a sentence with the same topic he started the sentence with. But also, this is his version of political spin and deflection. He has absolutely no subtlety. He just goes directly to, here's a thing you need to be afraid of. Here's a thing you need to be afraid of. There's no connection between them. Just be afraid, and I will protect you from the scary brown people.
Hold on, we've got just a bit of a feisty one in the chat.
It was bound to happen. I'm surprised it doesn't
Yeah.
happen more often, all things considered.
These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our
What is
country.
with that cadence to let into our country? It's just like, what, dude? What are you doing? Like, this is just scaremongering. I don't, you know, what the hell?
They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality.
Now that's a lie. That's a lie. Immigrants are one of the lowest levels of criminality in America. Actually, you are much more likely to be a victim of violent crime by a citizen of America than you are from an immigrant, even an illegal immigrant. Because the thing is, illegal immigrants, they don't want to be found. They keep their heads down. They don't make a lot of trouble.
They suffer from a higher rate of crime
Yes.
affecting them because they feel like they can't call the police for help.
Yes. And, you know, there's statistics and studies to absolutely back that up. That is 100% a lie.
And we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us
True.
the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald
True.
Trump left.
Yeah, that is true. I think that the employment part of it might have been the pandemic. That might have been part of it. But
Oh, sure.
ultimately, Trump's responsible for the response to that health crisis. Ultimately, he's the one in charge, and he wants to say, "Oh, well, it wasn't my fault. It was, you know, other stuff." Well, you're the one in charge, and other countries bounced back, and yours didn't.
Yeah, well,
And the
and
reason
more to
why
the
is
point,
because of his policy.
right? He in the book with the guy who did the deep throat thing, I forget the fella's name. He revealed that he knew how bad the virus was going to be, how severe it was, and that he was lying to the American people the entire time. It's not just that there was an epidemic. It was that he did, it seems, everything in his power to make it worse.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for fuck's sake, this man is responsible, at the very least, in the sense of manslaughter, if not, intentional harm, for the deaths of more Americans than anything since World War II. It's
Right.
wild how many people he killed. And to see the polls
He-
this close just blows my mind.
He covered it up. He knew that there was a illness that was spreading, that was contagious, that his health advisors and the World Health Organization was telling him was terrible, and he knew about it and did not tell anybody. It's absolute.
Worse, he deliberately
Disgusting,
spread disinformation and misinformation. I mean, he was classified during the outbreak itself by the UN and the World Health Organization as the number one spreader of misinformation. He wasn't just failing to respond. He was taking actions that made the response less effective.
Oh, absolutely.
Left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again.
So let's talk a second about Project 2025. Unless anybody sort of, that has been living under a rock or just avoiding the news because it's depressing, which I totally understand, Project 2025 is a far right religious document that outlines a plan for America based around almost let's say a Christo-fascist or Christo-nationalist kind of regime, where things like anything that an extreme right-wing version of the church would dislike, like a banning of pornography, a banning of contraceptives, the promotion of sort of Christian churches to be in charge of education and things like that, like a real return to the extreme religiosity of the 50s kind of thing, like a really obnoxious
way more
document.
than that. Yeah,
that's true. In some spaces, yeah.
It's almost like they read Margaret Atwood and said, "Oh, let's turn this into a plan."
Yeah, it really is, and it basically holds up that the only family that is viable is a man and a woman and children, basically, and sort of it essentially marginalizes everybody that is not the nuclear family. Essentially, it just marginalizes them, which is just awful and terrible. Trump tries to distance himself from this, but he can't, because the person that wrote it is one of his main advisors. Like, we're not even talking about people that endorse it. We're talking about the people that wrote it are directly in his inner circle. You can't get away from that. Like, you just can't. The only way you could is let those people go, but he won't, because he likes what they do for him. He likes the people they bring in, the extreme right-wing religious people that they bring in. He absolutely loves it. So there's no way he's going to distance himself from them. All he's going to do is lie and say it's got nothing to do with him. That's impossible.
Well, there's so much to say on the subject, but his own Agenda 47 being written by his direct team now is very, very much based on Project 2025. It's got a lot of things that are just left as, shall we say, the concept of a plan rather than spelled out the way Project 2025 does. But there's a lot of parallels.
Yeah, and I mean, the purpose of Project 2025 is to reshape the government for Donald Trump, for him to be allowed to do basically whatever he wants. That's essentially what it will entail, and it is horrifying and absolutely scary. I've got a copy of it on my computer. I've read through it. It is absolutely frightening.
By now, most everybody has seen at least clips from the videos that Politico was able to get their hands on. And yeah, it's pretty explicitly for Donald Trump, although it could be applied to any Republican who succeeds in reaching the White House. Oh, no audio on the video.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hate it. All right, I'll be right back. This is the only thing that frigging fixes it. Give me a sec.
Avast ye lubbers! It's time to pirate the channel. We do this roughly every show. If you're new here and you like this kind of thing, Mark and I do this every weekend. Unless Mark has a debate. We take turns. Sometimes we're on my channel. Sometimes we're on his channel. So next week we'll be back over at my place. But if you enjoy debate content, Mark does a lot of them. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. He also does a show called Fundamentalist Fails, where he'll feature Christian creators, if you will, and talking about their flavor of pseudoscience. That's on Thursdays here in the U.S., Friday for Mark, because he's in Upside Down Land. And he's back.
Do you happen to remember with a timestamp? I'm such an idiot. I didn't get the timestamp.
I saw 5:43, but I'm not sure how much we lost before I noticed there was no audio.
Okay, that's a good starting point. That's a good starting point.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Definitely make sure the audio is on. Yes. Okay.
Pledge to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's
Yeah, no, that's not possible. That is not possible. Like, the people in his circle are the people that wrote it. It's written for him. I don't know how you're like, if you have nothing to do with it, let the people who wrote it in your inner circle just get them out. But they're there and you're supporting them. It's ridiculous.
Well, another factor to consider is he also says, I had nothing to do with January 6th, right? Like, he only went and incited the crowd and got them all riled up and told them what to do and then sent them on their way. But he didn't actually do it. So he's the boy who cried wolf. Even if it were true, he had nothing to do with Project 2025. At this point, no one believes him because he lies about this exact sort of thing all the time. It's pretty hilarious that I don't know. With Trump, it's almost an automatic response. Like, if Kamala said the sky is blue, he would just instinctively say, no, it's green. You know? Like, he can't not lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's
he's
wired that way.
You.
Although sometimes the sky is very dark blue.
All right. I think someone needs a timeout. There we go.
been read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially.
He's an
create
open
a great
book.
economy like I.
Well,
he's an open book who still is the only president who has ever not disclosed his tax returns.
Yes. That's true.
Love it.
Yeah, no, I forgot about that. Like, he doesn't share his financials, and he's supposed to divest himself from all his properties, which he doesn't do. He's supposed to have them in run by somebody else, not a family member. He has broken all of the transparency rules or the transparency conventions around being a president that you could possibly name. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you could say that he is the most open president that there's ever. That is insanely bad. You know, I don't know how you can lie about that.
Did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made
What? Nobody's ever seen the stock market be on a high. No. What?
There was a lot there. For one thing,
Yeah.
the Spanish flu, not 100 million people. There were, maybe 150 million people in the United States at that time. That'd be, 2/3 of our population got wiped out, and we reproduced fast enough to hit 350 million just 100 years later. Holy shit. No, not true at all.
ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible.
You were anti-mask. What are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
He was anti-mask. And ventilators for the entire world? No, you didn't. What are you... No, other countries bought their own medical equipment. People were worried, actually, because sort of, they were worried that America would take all of the medical supplies, but it turned out to be a non-factor because some idiot was going around saying that masks wouldn't help and to inject bleach and all this other dumb stuff.
Uh-huh. And a lot of what we did do was non-governmental because the government wasn't helping. I've mentioned before, but it was a couple of years ago. I know a fellow over in Rochester, a fellow photographer named Joe Marino, and this man is a fucking hero. He's also a 3D printing enthusiast. And when the plague started, and he knew there weren't enough masks for healthcare workers, he came up with he made the 3D printing design to make some of those advanced ventilators, and he started printing them like crazy. And he made the design public, so other people who were stuck at home and couldn't do anything except play with their 3D printers also made more masks. And they made hundreds, they made thousands of masks and outfitted the hospitals in the major crisis areas. And they made so many, they started exporting them. They sent them to Doctors Without Borders. This man, more than Trump, literally saved lives. And he's just absolutely wonderful. But the fact that he had to do that because the government under Trump was doing everything possible to prevent anyone from getting help speaks volumes.
Oh, just 1 second. Sorry. I think that, any time where a government basically is responsible for healthcare and stuff. Anytime that ordinary citizens have to scramble like that, the government has dropped the ball, completely dropped the ball. And other countries were doing things like, we got a number of testing kits for free. Like, we just got given them. Something that America would never do and Trump would never do. I don't think that he took it seriously at all. And that's why it hit so hard.
Yeah, and it affected the economy in a bunch of ways. Like, I got sick in March, and there weren't tests. We could not get tests. Like, all the hospital could do was take x-rays of my lungs and say I didn't have influenza A or B. Like, not helpful. And because I couldn't confirm with a test that I did have that virus, when I told my work, what are they going to do? I can't give them a doctor's note saying that I have the thing. So, I almost lost my job because I could not work. I could not breathe. I kept, having coughing fits and losing consciousness and crashing into things. I broke several tables. I fell down several flights. I'm still afraid of going downstairs. I fell down so many flights of stairs. Fucking wild shit. That happened to lots of people. Some people died. Some people got very, very sick and could not work. And we didn't even have the tests. So employers were just having, half their workforce out with no rhyme or reason, no notice. What are people supposed to do? and the government was doing everything it could, not just to drag its feet, but make it worse.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's going to mess up the economy.
Okay, I just have to take him.
Possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were
which
bounce
people,
back
Donald?
jobs. These were
People give me credit for rebuilding the military. Which people, Donald?
Yeah, I don't. Okay, you're getting another timeout for this person. Stop talking about moderated decisions. This time it's 10 minutes and it's just going to get longer. I don't, you know.
Oh,
Look, if you've got a problem with the moderated decisions that I'm making, you can email me or take it up with me on my Discord. In chat is not the place to do it. So stop doing it. This is your last warning. I swear, I will absolutely ban you.
jobs bounce back.
Our good friend Maya of Bad Science Sunday on the Maya Edkinson channel has informed me that when people make trouble in the chat, that can be an opportunity for capitalistic profit.
Interesting.
Yeah. Basically, as I understand it, I have yet to implement it successfully myself, but if a person annoys the chat enough, then you can offer to time them out for like $1 per minute or something. So people send in a good sum of money. It has to be a certain flavor of obnoxious person, though, like the kind of person who isn't actually doing horrible things and is just vaguely annoying, you know?
I don't know. I feel like that's tyranny of the through capitalism kind of thing. I really do. I did see a show that was like dropping people off their panel on votes, basically, and it's like, wow, that really is tyranny of the majority. You know what I mean? Like, I can't think of a faster way to get an echo chamber than to go for majority opinion on who's talking, basically. No, that's not true, Alex. That's not true. The most devious shit that we've allowed Maya to get away with has definitely been, a weasel pimp, selling nudity for money. That's definitely the most devious.
I was
stuff.
gonna say debunking bad science while simultaneously trying to convince all of us that 5 weasels in a trench coat is an actual physicist.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
And it bounced back and it went to their benefit, but I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Oh, the gaslighting starts. They know it, and so do. No, nobody knows that. It was
It's a conspiracy. Oh, wait, I have a button for this.
Oh, nice.
It's a conspiracy.
Yeah, old man yells at cloud, basically. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Oh, it's true, Captain Red Bull. We do appreciate our weasel overlords. Praise the weasel. Dr. Tapioca is, of course, the head of the weasel cult. He guides us in our worship of the great goddess Maya. I simply tease.
President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy. And the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a
Who are these people?
Many people. The top professors.
Top professors.
This
I
from the
don't-
guy who talks about how the colleges and universities are full of liberal cucks that you can't trust because they're all woke. But when it's his stuff being evaluated, whatever. I do want to give Kamala a little bit of shit because she says he has no plan. His plan has been evaluated as absolutely disastrous, but he has no plan. Like,
no, that's not what she said. She said he's got no plan for you. His plan is for him.
I mean, true and fair. It just, I don't know. If that was her intention, it didn't come across as clear, at least to me.
No, she definitely said, like he's got no plan for you. And I understand that that's a modifier. It basically means that he's got a plan. It's just for large business and himself, not for your average sort of constituent out there. I get that. I'm just trying to find out if the Wharton School of Finance endorses anybody for president.
I don't know if they do endorsements. I did see. I'm never over on the website formerly known as Twitter, but
Yeah.
I did see a screenshot of a tweet from a Wharton professor talking about the various economic policies. And I know, a tweet is like the best source in the whole universe, but it seems to support what Kamala was saying.
So according to this fact checker, Washington Post, Harris's citations are correct. The Wall Street firm Goldman Sachs issued a report saying the economy would shrink because of Trump's trade and immigration policies. The Penn-Wharton budget model concluded that Trump's policies would add $5.8 trillion in deficits over the years. She did not mention that her policies would add $1.2 trillion, but that's less than 5.8. I've checked the math on that, and it works out. 16 Nobel Prize economists. Yeah, that's all true. So Trump saying he went to the Wharton School of Finance. Many of TOS professors think my plan is a brilliant plan. There is nobody saying that. One Wharton professor posted on the X, formerly known as Twitter, during the debate, "Hi, at Wharton professor here. Show me the many colleagues who say that Trump's plan is any good. I count 0. The post was later deleted. The Trump campaign did not respond to a request for names. Yeah. No, he's got nothing. He's just making shit up.
Plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, we'll try and lower taxes.
You
what
do
does
realize,
that mean?
I don't know. You do realize that it was like Biden, Kamala, like she was part of she's the vice president. So upon re-election, she's a running mate. It's her plan as well. I mean, I know that Trump thinks that what happens is that the president just does everything that he wants to do, and the vice president is just someone you get to help you. But that's not how most campaigns work. That's just your insane campaign. That's not a thing that others are doing.
Insane campaign.
Insane in the campaign.
There we go.
Yeah,
greatest hits. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is such a huge projection on his part.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
he literally has no plan, and that will come up later.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years.
Yeah, and who's China selling to? Who's China selling its products to?
So this is a Kent Hovind moment. This has been explained to him for years. Either he's completely daft or he's deliberately lying. It's hard to tell which, but also why not both?
Yeah, it can be both. But I honestly think he has no idea how, macroeconomics works in the slightest. I think he's got no clue whatsoever. Like, he just doesn't understand what a tariff is. He just thinks that, hey, if the country puts a tariff on something, they get money for the goods coming into the country. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's terrible. Sometimes it's passed on to the consumer. And he just, I don't know.
I mean, well, we do know that he has no idea how business fucking works. I mean, he bankrupted a damn casino.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that everything he does is in his own service, to be honest with you. I think that everything he does is for his own benefit.
George, I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, if she doesn't like them, they...
Yeah, the problem is that it wasn't really China. It was the people buying the products, because they would have passed on that tariffs to the price of everything just goes up. That's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, that's the point. It's not to raise money. It's to make American products competitive at the same price point. But also, the number is wrong. Like, we just looked this up earlier in this very program. It was about 80 billion over 4 years, not hundreds of billions.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't as large. Like, he's just he doesn't go for accurate numbers and citations. He just says whatever he thinks is sounds good. That's it. He doesn't actually look up anything. And this is a person stepping into a presidential debate. He should have accurate facts and figures, and he doesn't. And he doesn't care. He'll just say whatever. It's absolutely crazy.
Should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look.
This man, who is responsible for more deaths than actual wars, is talking about how people are absolutely dying because of relatively minor pricing. Yes, I know the price of eggs has doubled. It sucks. It's $4 a carton instead of $2. And trust me, I understand that tremendously impacts poor people. I'm a poor people too, I was homeless for 8 fucking years. I don't make a lot of money now. But it's not like he's laying it out that people are literally dying. It's just so wild. He's using this hugely melodramatic hyperbole, considering he's the man who killed so many of us.
Yeah,
it blows my mind.
Look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do.
I don't. This is just more wild claims. Like I don't. What the hell? I don't know. Like he just opens his mouth and says whatever he thinks is. I don't even know. There's a reason why he would never ever get on a stand to testify ever. In even under the most heinous circumstances, even if he had to maintain his defense, he never would, because he just lies outrageously with every single breath. It's incredible to see. It really is.
I want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to.
Oh, do you think Trump knows anything about AI or quantum computing? Come on, like
Well,
seriously.
He's learned a little bit about AI. Just a few weeks ago, he got into big trouble for saying that Kamala's crowds were AI generated, when, you know, the people there had their own pictures from their own phones to prove it wasn't. So it was, you know, something that was obviously immediately debunkable. And then he virtually immediately turns around and starts posting faked AI images of celebrities endorsing him without a thought for what would happen when they found out.
Oh,
Wild.
no. I didn't even hear about that. That is stupid on a whole new level. Like,
That's
wow.
It's a little bit of an aside, but it happened virtually immediately after this debate. Taylor Swift came out and said, I wasn't going to say anything about who I was voting for in this election. However, one of the candidates has posted a fake AI image of me saying I endorse him. I have not, and I don't appreciate him lying, using my image and trying to you know, credibility snatch off of my fame. So, you know, I'm voting for the other person. And, you know, you should vote for who you want. Here's how to go register, a whole bunch of stuff. And she threw in a great quip about one of Vance's gaffes about, you know, childless cat ladies. It was fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, I heard that part. Like, sort of, you know, they're calling, you know, this country's run by childless cat ladies. And it's like, wow, you just, what an ass. Like, seriously. But how, like, you're talking about somebody that wants to be the president of the United States that gets fooled by a deep fake. I mean, come on. Like, seriously, we've all seen pictures and that they don't look that good. And that, you know, you have to question the source of which you've got it from. The fact that someone that wants to be president is just posting what is an obvious deep fake, you know, it's not surprising he got, like, you know, taken advantage of on so many trade deals and so many things like that. It's not surprising. He's not a very smart person, and which is probably why he has to say how smart he is constantly.
I'm a very stable genius.
Yeah, very, very.
To support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed.
I don't say her because she has no policy.
Uh-huh.
Look, you can say a lot of things about Kamala Harris, but she's got policies, whereas you don't. Like, what policy have we heard from him in the last, 12 minutes of this thing? Nothing. There's been no policies whatsoever. Kamala started with a policy. Now, you can say, hey, somebody else came up with the policy. Yeah, maybe. But the fact that she is a representative endorsing it, she has a policy, right? It's not like you've got to come up with these things on your own. That's not what legislators do. They have a team who work together. Like, this isn't a you have to do it all solo thing. This is a we work towards the stability and the flourishing of the nation thing. Like, I don't. Oh boy.
Yeah, and on the actual claim, the chips thing, China famously does not do business with Taiwan.
Yes.
Because according to China, Taiwan is a
Yes.
province in rebellion. And according to Taiwan, the Chinese government is not the legitimate government of China. So they
Correct,
kind of don't have a trade relationship. So hands on fire for that one.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that, actually. Taiwan and China do not have any kind of interaction at all. They are almost constantly. I don't think they even like settled their state of war from back, when so Taiwan was the refuge of the former government of China. They basically fled to Taiwan. And that's never really been resolved. That Taiwan still thinks it's the legitimate government of China. It's kind of really weird. So this is from when the communists took over. So yeah, that is absolutely a lie. Yeah, no, you're right, Reed. Taiwan is considered a rogue state by China. Yeah.
3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist.
What the hell are you talking about? I know
Right-wing
Marxists.
buzzwords.
I know, right? It's just, what the hell? Like, you can say a lot of things about her, but a Marxist is not one of them. There is no way. I don't think he knows what a Marxist is. I don't think he knows that a Marxist is a communist. Like, I don't think so.
I wonder if that's projection on his part. Like, okay, we know that he's not a pro-worker type,
No.
right? He doesn't want to end classism and all of that crap.
Right.
But he really does like President Xi, so...
Yes, but President Xi is not a Marxist either. He's, I mean, President Xi is I mean, you can call him a communist, but I mean, there is no way that even remotely resembles Marxism over there. Like, it's more like an oligarchy than it is a communist state.
Yeah, modern China, it's still nominally communist, but it doesn't behave that way and hasn't for quite some time.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where I believe 21 million people, not the 50
millions monthly.
Monthly millions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think that millions of people are pouring over the border monthly? So
how could they? Because he had 4 years and he built a wall, right?
So about 5 million migrants arrived during Biden's presidency, but that's migrants. It's not just illegal immigrants. It's everybody, right? So it's basically illegal immigrants and people that arrive migrating or emigrating from their own country and immigrating to America. So Customs and Border Protection recorded about 10 million encounters between February 21, after Biden took office, through to July. But that doesn't mean that all of the people of the country sort of entered the country illegally. They're just encounters. It's like, the police encountering someone on the highway. They might have done nothing wrong. They might just be checking registration. So he's actually taken a number and completely lied about it. Like, this is an outright lie. But we can sort of trace where he's got the number from. But to him, accuracy is not important. The important part is that he scares people. So he's taken this number, made it into something scary. But the level of dishonesty of this is astounding. Either he is dishonest or grossly incompetent, and either way is bad for America.
Why not both?
Why
but
not
also,
both?
bold of you to assume that he actually took a number from somewhere instead of just making one up again
Well,
and it
that's true, yeah.
coincidentally aligning with a semi-related statistic.
That people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable number of people. As in, you shouldn't believe it because it's not true. It is not believable. That is correct. Yes, it isn't believable because it's not freaking true. Wow.
They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and
I don't think so. I think the housing crash was probably pretty bad. I don't think illegal immigrants are the worst thing to happen. Like, I get that there may be some connections between immigration and the economy, but does anyone remember the housing crash?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I lost my house in that housing crash. That was one of the factors that led to me being homeless for 8 years.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. That sucks. And I am so glad our government had a amazing plan to cope with that economic crisis. We didn't even have a recession through that, which is insanely incredible considering what happened. And the way that they did it is they gave stimulus to people, the average people, just gave them some money to spend, and it ratcheted up the economy, and we just sailed straight through it. And I was so glad. That's now the standard way to cope with recession, is to stimulus for ordinary, sort of middle and lower class.
she has destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they
We're
have to hate our
destroyed.
country.
Yeah, you might. How is the Thunderdome there, Ember?
It's kind of brutal out here, Mark. This is why I have to keep an actual lightsaber by my desk, because Mad Max could come in at any moment and try to steal my Pokemon.
Yeah.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is they have abortion.
Does she know? I love how he keeps talking to the you know this, you know that. Yeah, I don't think anybody knows what you're doing, my guy. I think
We do. It's flip-flopping.
It's this constant gaslighting. Like, you know that I'm this, and it's like, no. Like, what are you talking about? It's kind of weird. It's weird. They're weird.
It's true.
In the 9th month, They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And
what is he talking about? Nobody is saying, we'll let the baby be born and then we'll execute. Nobody's saying that. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about abortion. Like, seriously, what the hell is this man talking about?
Sometimes it's just a who the fuck knows, but he has gone on this tear a few times, and I believe this is the first fact check that comes up where the moderators actually intercede, and that's one of the most hilarious parts, I think.
her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick.
Oh, he doesn't like the VP pick. If he's horrible and really
He's
out
scared.
of it, isn't that good for you, Trump?
You would think,
that's the
but
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's projecting again because his weirdo VP pick really is kind of out of it. But I mean, Walz is absolutely fucking beloved in his own state, and every impression he's made on the national stage now that he's been elevated. This man is so fucking wholesome. He could separate if we hadn't already had the conventions. He could separate from Kamala, run himself, and beat both of them combined. He's like the American, you know? It's wild.
No. Yeah, so that is false. Execution after birth is illegal in every single state. Period. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. And if somebody is telling you it's a thing, they are lying. They are outright lying, as Trump is.
Says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after.
No. The only time you would abort in the 9th month is if the baby isn't viable and it poses a significant and imminent threat to the mother's life. That is the only situation. That doesn't mean it's fine. It means it's medically necessary in a dire emergency. That is not the same as fine. Like this is the spin that he's putting on it. Look up the law. I have looked it up. You cannot kill a baby that's been born. You seriously, I don't know what is wrong with people. Like there is nowhere in the law of any state that says you can kill a baby that has been born.
It's pretty wild. And additionally, it just... So politics dehumanizes the people in a given situation all the time. It's one of the most unfortunate consequences of politics. But when you consider a person who has made it to the 9th month, has gone through 8 months of pregnancy, has made all the preparations, they've already painted the nursery, they've probably already picked out names. This is a person who really, really wants to have this baby. They've had 9 months or 8 months to abort it and haven't. They've chosen to get this far. So nobody is getting to the 9th month and going, you know what? Never mind. Like this only happens when it has to happen.
Yes. And when like so and in the 9 months, generally it's never medically necessary to kill the fetus. It never is. Like at that point, we would just deliver the baby. Maybe in the very, very early 9th month, it may be, but that would be an incredible exception. Generally, it would just be a premature birth. We would just deliver the baby. That's it.
You're looking at something like umbilical cord wrapped around the neck and the baby has died or something, you know?
Right, exactly. Yeah, but that's not the same as aborting a live fetus. That is that is a horrible situation. And this whole thing of I'm just going to keep saying that it's true. No, it's not true. It's absolutely not. It's ridiculous. I mean, the people saying this is true are just making themselves look worse and worse and worse and worse. You know, they just look like liars because they are. This is so easily fact checkable, so easy to do.
After birth, it's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now,
no, I don't think a majority of the people wanted that. That is not what everybody wanted. Absolutely not. That's another lie.
In fact, that was, I mean, for fuck's sake, I've been involved in abortion debates since I was involved in debates.
Right.
Even people who think abortion is wrong, generally speaking, understand that while we can argue over the morality of abortion, we can disagree. If you
Right.
don't like an abortion, don't get one. But even
Yes.
they, especially because the pro-lifers are overwhelmingly conservatives, understand that you do not want the government telling you
Yes.
what you can and cannot do.
Mhm.
And that's what the debate is about. It's not whether
Yes.
abortion should be allowed. It's about whether the government should have charge over whether or not
Mhm.
you do, or any medical care. The government shouldn't come between you and your doctor, period.
But the problem is they're saying, well, the federal government shouldn't, but state government should. And that's not viable either. That's not what should happen either. It should be, as you say, between you and your doctor. Like, he's just basically, instead of having a, well, you know, the government will stay out of the abortion issue in Roe v. Wade, they basically said, well, we'll leave it up to the states. That's involving the government in the thing. It's basically making it so that the state government can tell you what to do with your body. It's not, you know, which it's really weird for this one issue. All of these sort of libertarians and the, you know, minimal government involvement are suddenly really involved, you know.
And it is misleading because it's like the inverse of the old slavery argument, right? Like, slavery is bad, we should ban it. Well, let's just make it a states issue. That's because they know they can't win on a federal level and they want to have it their way in their own place. But even worse, they're not doing it for valid reasons. Every one of these debates, every single one, in state houses across the country, the people on the pro-life side, which is an interesting phrase considering the same people vote down every attempt to reduce the gun violence in our country, which is the leading cause of death for children in the United States, but that's a whole other topic. They all quote scripture. They say, well, God says abortion is wrong. Like, what are we doing here?
Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit.
Does Trump not understand that the entire point of the federal government is to do the will of the people? Like, that's kind of the preamble to the Constitution is, you know, a more perfect union, yada, yada, yada. Though it's the people, we the people, you know? That's the point of it.
Well, I think he's showing his mentality again, because I don't think he thinks that the president, like, even because when he's president, he's not doing the will of the people. He's doing the will of himself. He's benefiting himself. He's doing things to make his own life better. He doesn't care about the people. So I think he's projecting onto other governments what he does, you know, because he's not interested in upholding the what the people want. Why would he?
To those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Yeah, that's the first fact check. No, it's not.
Uh-huh.
Of course it isn't. Like, seriously, I don't know how people can be so oblivious that they honestly think that you can like take a baby from its mother and just kill it and that's fine. I have no idea. I have no idea. It's insane.
Well,
It's
as I said,
pretty
you're going to hear a
special.
bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body, does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term.
He can't even look at her. Have you noticed this? Like, I noticed this all through the debate. He can't even look at her. I think that Trump's got some, I think he's got some real problems with women. Like, he just can't look at them kind of thing. I think he doesn't respect them as human beings because he can't even look at her. Like, he touts about him being this strong and confident guy. He can't even summon the courage to look her in the eye. Like, come on, man. Seriously?
Yeah, he's a big, tough guy with very tiny hands.
Yeah.
Suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
She makes another really good point here. How it is part of his plan, both Project 2025 and Trump's own plan, to put in a federal abortion ban. So his thing about we sent it back to the states because that's what people wanted, that's total bullshit. His plan is to ban it nationally, not put it in the states' hands.
Well, it's not only a national abortion ban. They're talking about things like pornography, for instance, or any kind of thing that they deem to be sinful. They're talking about sort of banning what they see as immorality. So gay relationships and stuff, right? So, but the way that it's framed in Project 2025, they're sort of saying, hey, there has to be a ban on anything but a male-female sort of, sexual relationships. How the question comes up when you read it, how would they know? And monitoring and sort of surveillance is the only way they could possibly implement something like this. It's the only way. So, I think that Kamala's right that Project 2025, a lot of it comes with the implicit, it's not explicit, but the implicit idea that they would be monitoring your sexual activity, they would be monitoring your pregnancy, they would be monitoring all kinds of things that, quite frankly, is none of the government's business, none of their business. So I don't think she's well out of line here. I think the problem is that Trump's got people who have written and endorse and support Project 2025 in his inner circle, and he will not let them go. He will, he is basically running a ship full of pirates going, well, I'm not a pirate, it's just my crew. There you go.
Avast ye lubbers.
Mm.
We're off to ban abortions.
It's ridiculous. Like, it is the most ridiculous thing ever. You're the captain of that ship. Like, if you don't like the policies that your policy advisors are putting forward, why are they still there? I don't understand it. It's so weird to me.
There she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well,
came
I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things.
Okay, that's not an answer. That's not an answer. If a national abortion ban came across your desk, would you veto it? That was the question.
Mm-hmm.
That was the question. And
it's
I want to remind you that it's gone. They asked the question to Trump. It went to Kamala to give a rebuttal. Now it's gone back to Trump for some reason. That is not the format of this debate. In times where they asked Kamala a question, it's gone to Trump. It hasn't gone back to Kamala Harris, right? He's just doing exactly what he did in the first debate, which was, oh, just one more thing after the rebuttal. He wants the last word every single time, which is unfair and dishonest and had me absolutely fuming. And I'll be pointing this out as we go along.
Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. He went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, like spent more time on the golf course than any president in history. Or spent more leisure time than any president in history. And the government reflected it. It was very poorly run. But like the whole thing is that he's now saying student loan. They provided student loan relief. Like,
it wasn't what we wanted, but that's what happens in politics very often. Like, we didn't want the Affordable Care Act that we got. It was a compromise measure because the Republicans stood in the way of what the obvious correct thing to do is.
Yeah.
Which would be single payer, by the by.
Yeah. But it's just, and a lot of times, like Biden is a statesman. A lot of times you've got to compromise with the opposition if you want something through, which is probably what they did, and they got something through. So they didn't fail. Like, they just didn't get exactly what they wanted.
Yeah. And in a way, that's kind of the problem with the way the United States runs is the Democratic Party is full of people who are professional statespeople. Now, of course, there are exceptions. There are assholes in every group of humans. But by and large, they're all people who are trying to be professional diplomats. And so they compromise, they negotiate, they make a deal that improves conditions, even if it's not everything they want. The Republicans, on the other hand, simply stomp their feet and throw a tantrum and say, my way, my way, my way. And eventually they get what they want, which is why our country keeps drifting further and further down that rightward slippery slope into, actual Mad Max territory.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to share a law with me, they don't need to email it to me. You just cite the code. Laws are codified. Okay, let's explain this. Okay, so all laws are codified, whether that be state or federal, and they're depending on the state, it has some sort of code. Particular that state, while the federal have their own codes, kind of thing. But you don't have to show somebody physically a law. You can just go, well, it's code, fill in the blank, and that will tell them what the law actually is, so they can look it up. You don't need to show somebody a law. Just cite the code. Cite the code. And if you don't have access to the code, then you don't have access to the law, because laws are codified. This is
What if it's
lawyers
a secret
do.
law?
It's a secret law that nobody knows about except for the Republicans. Ooh.
It's a conspiracy.
Hold on, I'll get my tinfoil hat on.
Taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea, and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look.
Then why not answer the question? He still hasn't answered it. He said, oh, well, it won't come to that. Well, if it did, like we're talking about a hypothetical, if for some reason, because he says, hey, she couldn't get it through, she doesn't have the numbers, doesn't mean that those are going to be the numbers going forward. You lost the Senate, you lost the House, the Democrats can lose the Senate, the Democrats can lose. Things change in legislation. The legislative bodies, the cameral system, things change. So if it does cross your desk, will you veto it? And you're not answering the question. Answer it.
We don't have to discuss it, because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
He didn't answer the question. That is so evasive.
Wild, too. Like, we know he has no problem being blatantly, obviously, easily fact-checked dishonest. He will lie straight to a person's face. He'd look at you, Mark, and say, you're wearing a purple shirt. I'm not, it's whatever. Why wouldn't he just answer it? Why all the dancing and dodging when he doesn't have a problem with lying?
Well, it's interesting because the last election in my area, right? I remember listening. The one I was going for was Kate Cheney. She was my local member, and seems like a really nice woman. And the previous one, I can't remember her name. I can't remember her name. But anyway, they were fine. They were both fine. But the question that came up in this radio interview, they asked her sort of, do you support a woman's right to choose whether to have an abortion or not? And she's like, well, we have no plans to stop abortion at the moment. And they're like, yes, but do you support that? And she's like, well, we have no plans to implement something like that in the future, kind of thing. And it's like, they turned to the Kate Cheney, the current member, and asked, do you support a woman's right to choose? And she said, yes. And that's it. It's as easy as that. Now, the Liberal Party that the Celia Hammond was her name, the previous member was a part of, had held this seat that is my electorate for over 100 years. They lost it to an independent. Somebody just out of the woodwork, completely lost it. That's how serious this is. Yeah, but that was the question that I went, yeah, I'm not voting for her. No way. If someone isn't answering the question like that, they are absolutely not working in your best interests. Because even if they disagree with you, they should be saying, at least they can say, well, personally, I would never get an abortion, but I represent the will of the people, and the will of the people is, freedom, bodily autonomy, that kind of thing. That I would accept. But sort of just this hedging is awful. Absolutely awful.
It's broadcasting an intent to be duplicitous without even having the balls to outright say, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, if someone says something's law, just provide the code. Ugh.
Abortion.
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs, barely can afford to do it. And what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond.
No, that is not the thing. And this is a good time for Amber. Thank you so much, darling. That's awesome. For $2, this is the correct way to disrupt the stream. FYI. Yeah, no. So I've got a stream disruptor and C3P hole. Seriously, man. If you say it's law, provide the legal code. Like seriously, what are you doing? You're basically claiming something that is easily fact-checked and then refusing to give the code for the law. Ridiculous. Come on now, just provide it, but you won't because you're absolutely full of it. I'm really sorry, but you are. What kind of person says, hey, there's a law that says this? Well, what's the legal code in Minnesota? Oh, no, I'm not going to give that.
It's a secret.
Then it's not a law. Then it's not a law. And then you want to say, oh, I said it's not a law, but it never happened. Like, get out of here. You're claiming it's a law? Provide the code. Easy. Easy. Yeah. No, he'll probably send me an email of a freaking, some right-wing channel like with a YouTube video and say, oh, look, it is the law. That's the law.
They told me on Reddit that it's really a legit for realsies law, guys. Mm-hmm.
Right. Daily Wire wouldn't lie to me.
Never.
And Doorknob Heb for $2. Thank you, Doorknob Heb. Streamus interruptus. Yes, in the Latin. Beautiful.
That's right. It's more magical that way.
No, I'm sure you're getting it, C3P. I'm sure you are. I'm sure it's imminent. Just imminent.
Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization.
No, you haven't. And plus, the whole point is that the law that the state made, it was illegal to terminate any embryo. Okay, so the language that they used was terminating an embryo, so a living embryo to a dead embryo. So the IVF clinics shut down because that law, because it was stupid, made it illegal to throw out live embryos. So they couldn't keep embryos anymore. Like it was insane. It was insane.
The IVF I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question.
you
Would you
could,
veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to
Yeah, but one of those things is not murder the baby. I don't.
It's just wild.
Oh, this is such, it's just such lies.
Yeah, and the whataboutism and the deflection. Like, why don't you ask her about a different question?
And this is
why don't you answer?
This isn't even his time for a rebuttal. He just jumped in and said, "Oh, I've got one more thing." It's supposed to be question rebuttal, not question rebuttal and then get your knickers in a twist if you're Trump and have to have the last word. This is what absolutely drives me crazy. That isn't the format for this debate. And he's basically, like the first one, wanting one extra thing to say. No, you don't get that. It's question rebuttal. What are you doing, you absolute tool? It drives me insane.
turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot.
Yeah, and why didn't he fix the problem? It's because he didn't want them to solve the border problem. He wanted himself to.
But not even that. Like, he had a chance and he didn't fix it. But more importantly is if you look back at the history of the United States, the border problem has been a problem for over 100 years. And everybody, they can't fix it because it's one of the evergreen issues they can run on. As long as they can say, oh, the immigrants, the scary brown people, that's one of the very few ways they have to win elections. If they fix it, then they lose that advantage. So they will not fix it.
But most illegal immigrants don't come over the border. They come through legal ports of entry. They're people that come with a visa, like a holiday visa or some sort of temporary work visa, and then overstay. That's where most of the illegal, like the border is. And don't get me wrong, that's a different issue than like what she's talking about, fentanyl and drug smuggling into the US. But, if you're talking about illegal immigrants, most of those people are coming from legal ports of entry. But, the whole point is that Trump had a chance, and this was a bipartisan bill, and he said, squash it. Don't put it through. And basically made it absolutely clear to all of the Republicans that if they didn't squash it, he would, attack them, essentially. I don't know I don't know why. It's just he doesn't want it through. He wants to be the one to build his wall and stuff. He doesn't want them to do anything. And I mean, the cost of a wall as opposed to, like, drone surveillance, for instance, it's not even a question. I don't get it.
Night, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the board.
First, let me respond to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go.
Oh, this is hilarious. Like, seriously, is that important right now? Is that at all important?
She hit him in the ego.
Yeah, she hit him right in the ego. And this is how easy this man is to manipulate. Like, you just hit his ego and he'll just get sidetracked. The whole thing about the border is right out of his head now. And he's talking about his rallies, how big that, like, seriously? And she doesn't have big rallies. Yeah, she does. She does. It makes the news less because she isn't ranting like a crazy person talking about Hannibal Lecter. She's not wrong. That was weird. Like, Hannibal Lecter was a really great guy. A, he's not real. And B, he was a psychotic murderer. What are you talking about?
Find people on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. But a lot of people criticize Harris for not presenting as much policy as she could have in this debate. But what they're not really seeming to get is that her real goal here, any policy she could present, fantastic. As presidential and diplomatic as she could come off, fantastic. But her real goal was to demonstrate how easy this dingbat is to bait, to elicit specific. She was pushing his buttons like a touch-tone telephone. And that was the goal. And she did it successfully. It's kind of masterful.
It was really good. I mean, but it's I mean, it wasn't. I kind of push back on the idea that it's masterful because, like, it didn't. It was very well done. Sort of what she did, but it's so easy to do. Like, how easy was that? She didn't really have to goad him at all. All she said is, he does these ridiculous rallies and everyone walks out because of boredom. And suddenly, that's all he can think about. Like,
fair. A 5-year-old could have done the same thing. That's true.
Right.
But the timing when she chose to drop that bomb on a completely unrelated subject, she'd been sitting on it. She'd been holding that card. And it was just after she made the point about him using his influence on other politicians to kill a bill about a subject that he claims to care about for purely, obviously political reasons. That's when she used it. And that's what makes it masterful, because now he's lost his chance to respond.
Well, that's true, but he'll try and respond to both anyway. He'll just, get sidetracked because he's not a very smart thinker.
So she's bussing him in and paying them to be there and then showing them in a different light. So
Rejection.
She can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
The most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
Well, he's not wrong, because it's been over 100 years since the last time somebody took a shot at a president during one of his own presentations. That is pretty remarkable. I have to hand it to him there. One of his own followers, yes, but still.
Yeah, I think that you're right, that the timing was really good. I just don't think it was masterful. I think that it was I mean, if used against a smarter person, it would have been absolutely obvious what she's doing. I'm sorry. I think that was like, I found it obvious what she was doing. She was trying to get him to talk about something completely. I'm sorry. I just, like, it was very well done. I don't know about masterful.
Maybe so. Maybe so. It could have been more subtle. But on the other hand, there's a risk that if she was too subtle, it would have just zoomed right over Trump's head, because he's not a sophisticated thinker, as we've been pointing out as we go here.
Yeah. Yep. Like, if he would look so better if he just said, hey, there's nothing wrong with my rallies, and then just moved on. But he can't. He can't. And that's the problem. There's all of these behaviors you see from him that he cannot stop doing. Like, I mean, the guy is indicted. He goes to court. The judge basically tells him to stop making these threats against, the plaintiffs, the witnesses, all of these things. And he cannot stop doing it. 10 times he was held in contempt. 10 times. I don't know how he is still out and walking around, to be honest with you. He should be in jail for that. 10 counts of contempt.
It's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And
I thought it was destroyed. Ember, can you fact check me? I was told it was destroyed.
Yep. He did say that. It has been destroyed. Now it's failing.
It got better.
Yeah.
It got better in the last, 10 minutes or so. Now it's only
just
failing.
a flesh wound.
Going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk.
Wait.
They're so embarrassed by
He's
look, not going to be.
Now he's back on the illegals, which is tangential to the actual question, which is, why did you kill this bill that would help stop the illegals? Like, you can't blame Biden for a problem that you helped make worse on purpose.
Right. Like, so he's dodged another question, just refuses to answer this question as well. This is really bad. Like, this is very, very bad. The question is, why did you kill this bill? And he's talking about the illegals in Aurora. Why?
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And
okay. I have a clip for you, Mark. So this is from the Shill show yesterday.
The Shill, nice.
Yeah, Dick Dawson had our friend Nick Suter from the In Time show on.
Yeah.
It was great. So this is only a few seconds.
We're the sauce on your steak. We're the cheese in your cake. We put the spring in Springfield.
they're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the pets in Springfield.
We're the sauce on.
I hope I don't get copyright struck for that, but we'll find out, I guess. They're eating the dogs and cats in Springfield. What the hell is... I don't, like... Okay. We got to talk, America. Like, seriously. This is the kind of... Like, I don't understand how this can be a candidate for the most important job in your country. This is an uncle ranting at your barbecue, like after having way too many drinks. You're like, look, Bruce, just go and sit in the corner, read your book, look at your TV, like stop talking to people, mate, because you are freaking them out. Like, this is the candidate that you've decided you're going to potentially put in charge of your country. Are you serious? They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're bloody taking the kangaroos and they're putting them on the hood of their car and driving around all the time. No, get out of here. What the hell are you talking about? This is crazy. This is absolute madness.
It's pretty
Nobody
nuts.
is eating. Well, apparently this came, and I looked this up. This came from a Facebook post. A Facebook post of
The most
somebody
reliable
saying,
source.
right, but it wasn't even somebody saying, hey, this family had eaten my cat. Apparently their cat went missing and they suspected the Haitian family next door of eating the cat. Just some racist Facebook post. And this made it all the way to the presidential debate. Can we just understand the madness of that? It's like if someone posted that aliens stole their teddy bear and it makes it to the presidential. Like, what the hell? How is this even happening?
Showing off those brainworms, I suppose. It's
I don't even understand.
But you know, Mark,
yeah,
the reason that they have to eat the dogs and cats is because we atheists already ate all the babies in those,
Right,
post 9-month abortions and shit. Yeah.
Well, I have to say that in other countries throughout the world, in my country, somebody saying this, wanting to be prime minister, the party would drop them like a stone. And this is the problem. And I do want to apportion a lot of the blame to the Republican Party. They're the ones supporting this guy. He is the one representing their party and their values. They're eating dogs and cats guy is the one representing their party. Now, I know the systems are different. I know that, there's a bit of a difference in the system, but you're going to have to live with history saying this was a Republican candidate. Like, I don't understand how anybody in their right mind could possibly go, well, that's going to be good for our party, looking back on the annals of history.
Well,
The dogs and cats guy.
They don't have any sense of shame, any standards. Like, this is the party of Ronald Reagan. This is the party of Richard Nixon. This is the party of George W. Bush. They have no shame at all.
It's incredible. Incredible. I just, I feel like pinching my, this has got to be a prank. This has got to be somewhere the camera's going to jump out and say, you Ashton Kutcher is suddenly going to go, you've been pranked. This was never a candidate. Are you crazy? Insane. They're eating dogs. They're eating cats in Springfield. Insane.
And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here.
Steroids.
Is
that good? Does that make us stronger than Venezuela?
Well, let's deal with the fentanyl problem first, and then we can look at the steroids. How about that?
It's a start.
Yeah.
Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So
no, it wasn't actually on television. It was on Facebook. He's obviously been told this by some right-wing person, and he's just believed that it was it was just a Facebook post, sir. That's it. Completely not credible in the slightest. How that gets all the way to a presidential debate is just ridiculous. I don't know how that happens. Just somebody saying, "Oh, the Haitian ate my cat" on Facebook. Seriously? Wow. And we've got a post. Really? The Springfield woman regrets post that sparked the false Haitian claims. The Hill today. The woman whose social media most helped. pets being eaten in Springfield. Okay.
Oh. Well then.
Let me have a look for it.
We're live fact checking, folks.
Yeah, so yeah, you're absolutely right. She feels remorse for the Haitian immigrants. Erica Lee recently authored a post on Facebook saying her neighbor's cat was lost and she was told it was because the pet was attacked by a Haitian immigrant. Kimberly Newton, Lee's neighbor, acknowledged to the Week, I didn't actually know who the person was who lost the cat. It was an acquaintance of a friend. Oh my God, this is turning into like, Spaceballs. So I'm your uncle's, sister's, niece's former roommate. Like, it's just like, what the hell? I'm not racist. Everyone seems to be turning it into that, and it was not my intent. I feel for the Haitian. Yeah, so it was just somebody posted something completely untrue. What the hell? It's not. That's not surprising, right? These things happen. But people post dumb stuff all the time. It's that it made it to this debate. Like, how can this possibly be an issue in a debate? Ugh.
Maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney.
Dick Cheney, I'm not sure that's a feather in your cap there,
Right.
Kamala. Dick Cheney is a bit of a dick. Actually, he's a total dick. Dick Cheney, yeah. No, I don't know why you'd be boasting about that one, to be honest with you. Didn't he shoot somebody on a hunting trip?
In a friend in the face.
In the face, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump will give you a quick...
Oh, wow, that she just smacked him down. That was a smackdown. Because these are the people that he's been working with. It's like going to, when you're looking for an employee, and let's face it, the government is the employees of the people. We elect them to represent us. They are working for us. You talk to the people, it's like getting references. Like when you're going for employment, you talk to the people that they've worked with, who's employed them before. And, everybody that he's worked with has said that he's an unhinged, unstable maniac. I don't know why, we'd be going, well, where's all the people saying that Obama was terrible? They're not around because he did a great job. Where's all the people saying that Biden is terrible? They're not around. But there's tons of people that have worked with Trump saying that he's not fit to be president.
It's pretty wild, and I don't think he has anybody who's a former employee of his who says he is a good guy. That's why he had to start saying, I'm a very stable genius, because so many, even in the early years of his term, there were already so many former staffers who were like, this dude is unhinged. Like, we need to 25th Amendment him as fast as possible.
And let's not forget, like, most of them, like Rudy Giuliani was unhinged and unstable. And all of the people that were reliable, I believe his military pick kind of thing was a very well-respected general, and he was basically, calling them a fucking moron by the end of it. This isn't normal. This isn't normal to happen. It's normal when somebody comes out from being in somebody's presidential cabinet or whatever you call the inner circle and say, yes, I disagree, but I respect him. That's normal because, people have differences of opinion. It's completely understandable. But usually you won't get the president calling them names either. They're like, hey, we have disagreements. I respect them. This is not normal. This is weird. It's so weird. I just, yeah.
It's kind of one great example is what happened with Bill Barr, right? Like,
Right.
He was the replacement official U.S. attorney because the preceding one wouldn't do Trump's bidding. So Bill Barr was there specifically to be Trump's personal attack dog. And when Trump said, I want you to do whatever it takes to invalidate the election, he said no. And then Trump publicly went after him.
Yes.
Like, how wild is that?
It's insane.
Minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did.
Actually, most of them quit, I believe. Most of them resigned. They weren't fired. They resigned. I don't know why he sort of... I think a lot of them did resign.
A lot of them did. I'm not sure if it was a majority because there are just so damn many. I just don't know.
Bad things or bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done...
books have never been written about anybody else in history. Yeah, sure.
They're the
Sure,
best
Trump.
books,
Yeah.
the most books. People are reading about it, too.
You know that books have been written about Obama and Kamala Harris and other people. Nancy Pelosi, I believe, has a book of it. No one can write books about anybody else. No, it's just with this man, the craziness is just off the chain. Like it just is. People usually write about very good things or very bad things, and the books that came out about you were absolutely crazy bad.
But he's just mad. Because he can't write books. Every book that's come out under his name was ghostwritten. And I just love the fact that The Art of the Deal, his supposed biggest bestseller, whatever, not only was it ghostwritten, but the contract for the ghostwriter gave him 50% of all royalties forever. It is the most ghostwriter-centric contract literally ever. So Trump, the guy who wanted the book, The Art of the Deal, made the worst deal anyone has ever seen with a ghostwriter over the book called The Art of the Deal.
Wow. That's insane. I did not know that. That is insane. 50% is ridiculous. Wow.
Such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
Oh, that is absolutely not true. That is an absolute lie. More votes than any sitting...
Maybe total votes, percentage-wise, no, definitely not. But the population does keep going up, so every year there's the potential for more votes than were ever cast before.
Yeah, that's true. But I still don't think he got more total votes than Obama's second re-election. I don't think he got more total votes, at all. The election for Obama's second term. I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, Big Bad Mama puts up. He lost the popular vote twice. Yeah, so that's.
Yeah, he really did. He also, Snopes says that his claim is true. It was the most votes for any sitting president ever. However, he also had the more votes cast against him than anybody ever.
Right.
Because it was even more votes than that.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals.
Wait. He asked what the policy was. I want to really focus on this. What was the policy? How are you going to deport these illegal immigrants? What is going to be the actual system for deporting these people? Because that's what he's claimed he wants to do. And he gave an example. Will you be going door to door? Just to sort of focus his mind on, hey, what's the actual implementation of this policy?
Many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
Excuse me, the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so.
He didn't answer the question in the slightest.
Uh-huh.
Like, no answer whatsoever. No answer.
And everything he did say, every single thing was false. Like, I don't know that it really needs to be said, but undocumented immigrants don't get to vote. That's
Right.
you can't do that. And people like Venezuela is going into their prisons and taking their prisoners, their convicted criminals, putting them in boxes with gift wrap and a little bow and sending them not just to the U.S., but to Kamala Harris specifically. Yes, that's clearly happening, for sure.
Rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every
No,
one of them.
it's not his time to talk. This is the thing. It's not his time to talk. The question was to him. She rebutted. He wants another go at it, and they should just turn his mic off. It's not his time to talk.
They really should. He just
Yeah.
keeps butting in like a bull in a china shop.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's such an easy fucking thing too. Like, his hero, Ronald Reagan, faced a similar problem, and you know how Reagan handled the problem of undocumented immigrants. Amnesty. He made them all legally here. That was
Yeah.
Reagan. Just say,
Mhm.
you know what? Deporting 11 million people is a logistical nightmare. So what we're going to do is strengthen the border so the problem doesn't get any worse, and we're going to find a way that the people who are already here can stay, as long as they're
Yeah.
not, convicted felons and shit, like this guy who wants to be the law and order president.
Those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them.
The decision in the Supreme Court did not really favor him at all. Actually, it did. I think he's talking about the previous one where they sort of said something about his immunity while being president, kind of thing. I think he's talking about that one, but that doesn't make him immune to financial obligations while he's not president. Like, he can still be prosecuted for that. As she said, he's about to be sentenced for those financial crimes, where again he never took the stand to defend himself at all in any way, shape, or form. If he thinks he's going to win this on public opinion, he's sadly mistaken. Like, seriously, he's not going to win it. And that's the same case where he had 10 counts of contempt of court against him. It's atrocious.
The same case where he had so much respect for the process of law that he rather infamously kept falling asleep in court and farting himself awake.
Those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made...
No, you're a criminal because you were sentenced, like you were found guilty by a jury of your peers. That last one was a jury trial. It wasn't much like they just decided that you were guilty. No, they had evidence and presented it. And you didn't even take the stand to defend yourself. You just totally just expect people to believe, oh, well, this was all just a political thing. No, it wasn't. How the hell did they get, like, the jurors in and everything? It's ridiculous. It's just another lie by the same old liar. It's ridiculous.
You can always trust a dishonest man to be dishonest. Of SG lovers.
Them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and
okay. So there were two things on that documents case. And first off, Joe Biden had some documents. I don't think they were top secret, but he returned them immediately upon being told. This man tried to hide the documents, lied to the FBI agents, or the Secret Service rather, who were investigating it, tried to have them smuggled out, had multiple opportunities to return all the documents and still squirreled some away. Like, there is no comparison. If he'd just given the documents back like Joe Biden did, there wouldn't have been a problem. It would have been just, yes, he complied, that's it, all over with. But he didn't do that. He kept top secret documents while evading police investigation and trying to hide them while lying multiple times to the Secret Service. That's the difference.
Yeah. And showing his friends, including Russian agents, and it's just, there's so much. There's so much.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, someone mistakenly keeping documents and returning them immediately upon being made aware is not the same as somebody willfully and criminally trying to hide those documents away in order to keep them for yourself. That is not an equivalent thing.
Total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in
So
2020.
now they're giving Kamala Harris the last word because it is supposed to be her last word. But I don't think Trump will be able to live with that. I don't think he'll be able to shut the hell up. And don't forget, okay, so we're to the Trump's criminal cases, which is so advantageous for Kamala Harris. Even though he protests, it's all set up. Yeah, criminals often do. This isn't sort of like you know, this isn't like it's bad for Kamala Harris. But the question was, can we remember the question?
Well, if you talk long enough, and
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons he rambles so much, is because if you talk long enough, the audience will forget what you
The
started.
question, yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't this the
How will you go about deporting 11 million people?
yeah. So the question was, how are you going to go about deporting 11 million people? And this is the answer. He's not even interested in talking about it. That's your answer. Congratulations. Yeah.
Before it's taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
We gotta
This is the
continue.
one that weaponized. not
Yeah.
me.
So they tried to give her the last word. He won't have it. But this is not your time to talk. This is a desperate man who just wants to convince people. This is a con artist. That's what con artists do. They can't allow somebody else to have the final word and say, hey, they're a con artist. They have to go, no, wait a second, and have the last word. It's so transparent in what he's doing.
Yeah, and it's a
She
lot of it
weaponized.
is
I
more
probably
bait.
took a bullet to
Sorry?
A lot of it is more bait.
What do you mean a lot of what's more bait?
Part of it is he has this compulsion where he has to have the last word, but Kamala can play off of that by bringing up more subjects that he simply cannot not talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't like I hope that people understand that he's not answering their questions. He's not giving them any kind of answers at all. I just, part of me goes, well, is it working for him? Is this what works for him? Because I couldn't even remember the question. Like it changed subjects that many times and was so bewilderingly weird that I was just hung up on, this is madness, and I forgot the question.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a tactic? Is it working? I don't know. I hope people can see that this is someone with no answers rambling about incoherent crap that has nothing to do with what he's been asked. I really hope so. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, look at trees. That's a great idea. They should display the question at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, absolutely. I think
That would
that's
be
a really
funny.
good idea. Yeah. See him rambling about the Department of Justice being weaponized, as it says, how will
Which
you
is
deport the immigrants?
wild, coming from a guy who's like his 2016 campaign was all lock her up. Like
Yes.
his goal was to weaponize the Department of Justice. So it's more frickin' projection. This is what
Yeah.
I would do, therefore this is what they must be doing.
But he didn't do it. He didn't even make any attempt to take vengeance on Hillary. It was just a bold-faced lie. Like, he just knew that it would motivate his base. He had no intention of doing anything to Hillary. He just wanted to denigrate her and sort of, ramp up his base so they would take actions for him. He had no intention of doing anything to her. That's the thing. Like, it's ridiculous.
To the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a
President
fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get-
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President
Mhm,
Harris, in your
mhm,
last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States.
Yeah, I think fracking is incredibly harmful for the environment. I think fracking maybe has to be looked at, but I don't think Trump will ban fracking either. He's going to ramp it up
No.
significantly. So
No,
You know.
and what's wild to me about it is that on certain issues, people will hem and haw until the cow's not only coming home, but die of old age about how we need more data. We need more data before we can even allow this thing that's already been happening with no negative consequences.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, they'll take something where there's mountains of data showing negative consequences and not even suggest that maybe we could use more data before allowing it. They're like, no, drill, baby, drill. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on longstanding work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, you're
He can't even look at her. I've noticed this throughout all the debate. He doesn't look at her once. It's really weird. Like he doesn't even glance at her. It's like he's kind of pretending she doesn't exist kind of thing. It's very, very strange. Like you would think you would, have a steady gaze at your opponent kind of thing. Like, I think he's afraid to look at her. I think he's afraid of cops, to be honest with you. She's a prosecutor. I think he's afraid of her.
It's quite possible. It could be a multitude of factors. It could be the fact that she's brown worries him, I mean, he's made no
Maybe.
bones about the fact he's a titanic racist over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Could be a multitude of things, yeah. But he obviously doesn't even look at her. And I mean, look, I remember the debate with Hillary, and he was just, not only was he looking at it, he was walking around behind her, which was just creepy and, threatening kind of thing. It was really, really crazy. But but I don't know. It's just really strange.
First of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father.
Is
and I learned
that the important thing right here?
Because
Is
it's
that the
about him.
important
Of
thing?
course it is. It's the
Like,
most
yeah.
important thing.
Well,
A small loan of $1 million.
Here's the thing. She did not answer the question. The question was, why did you change your mind on fracking and the gun issue and everything like that? That was the question, right? Why should Americans trust you? You say that your values haven't changed, then why has your policies changed?
Uh-huh. And to answer, he is correct. It was not $400 million. It was $413 million. And that's just what he inherited, not what his father gave him before he died.
Right. So that was the inheritance, yeah. So his father gave him that. Well, that is true if you look at it sort of literally. His father dying gave him that money. So the father left him that money. But yes, that's while his father was alive, he did go bankrupt, even though he was given sort of every opportunity in the world. But of all the things he could focus on, her not answering the question here is what he should be focused on. She didn't actually say why it changed her mind. I think the reason is because but he doesn't. What he does is he goes, no, you said something bad about me and I have to respond and spout all this stuff. He's so easily manipulated.
His favorite food is the red herring.
She just got you talking about something absolutely not connected with the question. Like, only an idiot would not be able to see through this.
Exactly. Only a total idiot couldn't see through this. And that's why she dropped that in there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because she's very careful about when she plays one of those insult cards,
Yeah.
Like, there was no reason to mention the $413 million at that point. She did it because she knew that if he were paying attention, or if a reasonable politician were paying attention, they would have called her out on not actually answering the question.
Yeah.
So she drops one of those cards and makes him go off on a wild tangent instead of simply calling her out on not answering the question.
Learned a lot from him, but I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
What the hell is he doing?
Wild. So
her mic isn't even on, dude. No one can hear her. It just looks like you're talking. Like, what are you talking about?
Which is crazy too, because he's constantly butting in, but her mic is turned off when he's talking. Who agreed to that? But also, technically, it's true. He has had many, many billions, and people are surprised by that. I was surprised. According to a news report from 5 days ago, Trump has lost $4 billion just in the decreasing value in Truth Social.
Yeah.
Just from that. So yeah, he's lost many, many billions. A surprising amount for a guy who bills himself as being super savvy at business.
Yeah.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is...
Okay, that's fun too. But also the projection here is off the fucking hook. Because first of all, Minneapolis, notoriously not burned down, much like in America, not destroyed. But also, everything that he just said could could and should be more properly applied to the January 6th insurrectionists, right? Like, the treason alone notwithstanding, under federal law, if you are involved in a crime that leads to the death of a person, that is the actual definition of felony murder. So every single insurrectionist on January 6th could technically be prosecuted as a murderer under that statute.
Mhm.
And Trump went way out of his way to pardon these people, to get their sentences reduced, to just every string he could pull. And it just, so everything he's saying about Harris here actually does apply to him for realsies. And that's wild.
And can I just look at the statement? She's getting transgender surgery for aliens in prison. Can I just? It's hard to pass. Like it's hard to actually wrap your mind around. But he's basically saying there's illegal aliens in prison that Kamala Harris is getting transgender surgery for.
I know.
Even though
if it were true, I'd go become an illegal alien and get thrown in prison, because holy shit, that stuff is expensive.
Yeah, they won't even pay for their own citizens, much less illegal aliens in prison. This is just a flat out lie. Like, what the hell is he talking about? What the hell? I don't know. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
A radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow.
Oh shit, the audio went out again.
Sorry?
The audio went out again.
Oh god damn it. All right. I'm
So Andrew wanted a better look at my outfit instead of putting the pirate flag up. I'll give you an opportunity. I did post a photo on Instagram, but like, now that I'm big, why the hell not, right? Also, I think, yeah, this is the first time on this channel when I've had my new smile, and I hope y'all appreciate it, because it hurts a lot. All right, back to plugging Mark's stuff. Aimbot is back. The Reddit review, am I morally bankrupt or them, is what it stands for. It's actually I am the butthole. I'm excited about that because I've been pushing Mark for months to get it going again. And yeah, so that's on Tuesdays, yes?
Yeah, Tuesday night Eastern time is the
Woohoo!
Is when that is. So it's Wednesday morning my time. Oh god, I should. Why don't I look at the timestamp? You'd think I'd learn after the third or fourth time, but I don't. I don't.
Oh no!
I 100% don't.
Oh shit! Damn it! My playback is not paused. 4022.
Oh, thank you so much.
Adventures in live broadcasting, folks.
I know. I'm so sorry. I gotta find out what's doing that. Fix it. Audio. Yes. I mean, I can fix it by doing my entire screen, but that does all audio, which is can be a bit of a problem, kind of thing. But that's okay. Let's just go.
Left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking.
What is he even? Is that English?
I don't know. He's trying to say that she stopped fracking and prices went up the roof, which I think he means through the roof. Like prices were very expensive, but it's a very strange way to say it. Like seriously.
He's a very strange, weird man. Now, challenge the one thing that actually made some kind of sense in that word salad there. Gas prices are higher
Yes.
in large part because the pandemic caused them to go very much lower because
Yeah.
no one was driving because we were all locked down or dying, as I was. But details.
Yeah.
About 3.5 years ago, they got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 4.
You're a big fan of solar, but you're angry that Kamala will go back to solar.
Uh-huh. He's
What are
such a
you
special boy.
talking about? You madman. Like, oh, Kamala will go back to the thing that I really like, I'm a big fan of. Then what's the freaking... What?
Yeah.
What?
How dare. And also, it should be noted, a solar plant is not the same thing as what we're currently doing, which is, building vast fields of photovoltaic cells. That's a solar farm. A solar plant is when you set up the boiler on a tower and surround it with mirrors to aim beams of sunlight at it. And those things can be dangerous. They are efficient, but you got to be careful with them.
Yeah. I played Fallout New Vegas. I hope somebody gets that reference.
400,
President
500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis.
Whoops. I'm not sure that everybody knows that. I think there might be one candidate you might have to educate on that. I would like to say that everyone knows that the peaceful transfer of power is a cornerstone of democracy, but I don't think one person understands. I'll let you figure out who. Oh, let me speed it up as well. Every time I reload it, I got to do that.
Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace.
She was breaking a window and trying to get into the Capitol building, where the police had barricaded to try to stop a violent mob from getting through the window that they had broken. Are you serious?
It's such a weird reversal of situations because, I'm one of the first people to say that police need to de-escalate the amount of violence they resort to. But
sure, absolutely.
The Capitol Police were literally under siege at that point. They were actively being attacked.
Yeah.
The fuck?
But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
one of those, David, one of those people.
But the question was, what are you going to ensure the peaceful transfer of power? And you've gone to the January 6th, rioters and treason was horrible for the people that were illegally breaking into the Capitol buildings, and she's a border czar. I don't understand how that relates to how is the peaceful transfer of power going to take place. What the fuck? At this
Thinking
point,
about-
you've just got to go, what the fuck?
Make it about anything else.
Right.
People going to be prosecuted. One of the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted, or in Seattle. They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. One of those people are going to be
Like
prosecuted.
2 blocks.
Let me just ask
You might
Yeah, it wasn't that big a place. It really
Yeah, and they
wasn't.
weren't actually doing anything illegal. Like
No,
they were
they
just
weren't.
saying cops have no power here. Like
Mhm.
you may as well say, when are they gonna prosecute people for the Occupy Wall Street thing? You know,
Yeah.
and people did actually get prosecuted for that when they like littered and shit.
ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election.
No, the question was, do you regret anything from that day?
That's a
Man.
great point, though. Trump was
Yeah.
president when the cop-free zone in Seattle happened. Why didn't
Yeah.
he prosecute people?
Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or
I
no?
had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter.
You're the president. You don't need Nancy Pelosi's sign off to send in the National Guard. You're the president. What are you talking about?
In fact, he'd issued orders. The reason it was just the Capitol Police is because the city police and the Pentagon, they were all expecting there to be trouble because
Mhm.
Trump's crowds tend to get a little rowdy and,
Yeah.
law-breaky and things. And
Mhm.
he ordered they not be there.
Right. Wow. But seriously, trying to blame Nancy, like, since when does the president need the permission of the not she wasn't even the Speaker of the House at that point, I think. She was just the leader of the Democrat Party. But anyway, since when does the president need anybody else's approval to call out the National Guard? You don't. Like, you don't. What?
Yeah.
has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation.
Yeah, and I think he did at one point say peacefully and whatever, but a lot of it was the rhetoric around it was, let's go and fight, let's march down, let's show like he ramped them up and just inserted some small thing to cover his own ass. This is the thing. He said he'd be with them. He was never with them.
Yeah, he went the fuck
Like,
home.
Yeah, he went home. He's like, I'll be right there by your side. He wasn't by their side. It's just such a horrible thing to do. Like, he just throws people under the bus all the time. You know, and the fact that he's defending one of the people who broke a window and tried to climb through while the sort of police officers inside were petrified, because then they're not only protecting their own lives, they're protecting the lives of the representatives in there. Like, to sort of say, oh, she's the victim. What the hell, man? That is terrible.
Let's remember Charlottesville. where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
He has actually said that there will be a bloodbath if they win. That's what he said.
Mhm.
Now, you can take that in a number of ways, and I think the ambiguous language is there for a reason. So we can say, well, I didn't mean like we would kill them. I meant, people would die because of their bad policies and stuff. I think that it's sufficiently ambiguous that he can claim, but, it's a dog whistle. His supporters know what it means, especially his very, very zealous right-wing supporter know what it means. That if they win, he will not accept it, and he'll goad his people into doing exactly what happened on January 6th. And I think it's absolutely tragic. It's tragic.
Yeah. It's like
Let's turn the page on this.
the other stuff that he says. He when it turns violent, he can just be like, oh, I was just using rhetoric and metaphorical language.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you literally said, my guy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not go back.
But that's something that the right-wing people that they want to do this kind of stuff always do. They say these things that are dog whistles, and it's understood well by the people that follow them what they're actually saying, but they'll hide behind this language to say, well, I didn't mean that, when they get into trouble for it. Because you can't just sort of say, hey, if you win, there'll be a bloodbath. You can't say that. So they'll say, oh, well, I didn't mean it like that. We've encountered these people again, time and time again, in the chat rooms, in the Discord servers, and they'll say, oh, well, well, I'm going to unalive you in Minecraft. We know what they're doing. It's not supposed to be subtle. It's obvious what they're saying. We know what they're doing, and they know we know. They'll just sort of play on the, oh, well, unless you can absolutely prove it. No, we don't have to stand for that. We know what it is that you're doing. And I don't think Donald Trump understands what he is doing, because, there's kind of, with these democracies, especially with progressive and more liberal people, is they'll let you say what you want. And they'll let you do all these things, and they'll let you be a total tool if you want. That's what you want to do. Okay, you have a right to your opinion. You can give your opinion. When you start to go down this fascist route, there's a line in the sand. And when you cross that line to actually taking action as the fascist that we suspect you are, all I can say is fuck around and find out. Because people will not accept that, ever. And sort of the right, I think that the right wing think that the left wing progressives are just weak and cowardly, and they never do anything when we jump up and down and say these things. But the January 6th rioters, they fucked around and found out.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of them.
Some of them did, yeah, well. But, like, if you want to tear down society, you're going to find out how motivated people are to preserve freedom, to preserve liberty, to preserve equality and things like that. Like, They just don't understand that just because we don't act on what you say doesn't mean we won't act on what you do.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I feel in this country when people, say all this stuff. I've seen Australians take to the streets over things, like absolutely made the government back down. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen enough. But places like Europe, like in France, people will swarm the streets. Like the government has to back down on certain things. And it's always good to see people, coming out en masse. So all I can say is get out there. I'm a social recluse. I will go out for a protest. Absolutely. I'm there for a protest. Anyway, yeah. This is going to take way longer. It's 3 hours and we're like halfway through. Did you want to continue this next week?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. There's a lot more stuff to point out and laugh at and so on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's going to be like 5 hours, so I can't do that. I can't do actually it's
fair
going to be
enough.
6 hours. Come to think of it, it's going to be 6 hours. But yeah, if we can continue next week, that would be awesome. Does this seem like a good place to stop, or should I let the question? I'll let the question roll out. I'll let the question roll out then. Yeah,
All
let them
right.
cook.
Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
Okay, so this is where it should end because he asked Trump, rebuttal by Harris. That's the end, right? That's the end. And this is honestly, I was watching with my wife and I was literally hitting the couch saying, no, don't let him answer. His mic's off, right? His mic is off. Now watch this.
It was a different term, and it was a term that
Why turn his mic on?
Mm-hmm.
It's not his turn to speak. I don't understand what it is that they're doing. It's basically going question to Kamala Harris, rebuttal by Trump. Question to Trump, rebuttal by Kamala Harris, and then Trump. For some reason, I don't understand.
related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been.
Yeah, that's where that's exactly what you meant by if they win the election, there'll be a bloodbath. You're talking about the energy industry. Bullshit. Bullshit you were. And this is what I mean. They're so transparent. And we've all seen it before. We've all seen these people dog whistle and then go, well, that's not what I was talking about. You're not that subtle. You're not that clever. We all realize what you're doing.
As you would
In
say,
Minecraft.
debunked. Laura Ingraham,
Yeah, we all know what you're doing in Minecraft. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything?
I tell you what, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing millions of people to come through on the southern border? That's not talking about the Capitol. What is wrong with this man? Like, can you see that line of thinking from him? Like, you talk about the Capitol. Here's the thing about the Capitol. Distract with something else. Like, it's like his thought processes are so obvious. Like, oh, let's talk about the Capitol. Let's talk about the southern border to distract you. It's so bloody blatant. That's what gets me. He's not even trying to hide it. I think that's what's making me angry, that it's so fucking obvious.
And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C.
Just the gaslighting, like, what the hell? This reminds me of a YouTube debate where someone's debating and they go, oh, you've been so bad this debate. Really?
Yeah.
What?
Like, you've got to say so, huh?
Yeah, you got to say so during the debate, do you? Okay. Wow.
And let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on.
He doesn't understand how legislature actually works. Yes, you can put in place a presidential order, sure, but probably not for a policy like that. It wouldn't be a good idea. And the next president can just undo it easily enough. So I don't, like, he just doesn't understand how anything works. Did he ever see, I'm a bill and I'm sitting on Capitol Hill? Do you remember that? No, you didn't watch that? Okay, here we go.
Come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus.
Okay. So, yeah, and that's what had me absolutely thumping my couch. You have a system in place for how you're going to run this debate. And Trump ignored it and just kept adding stuff to it. And they tried switching back to Kamala, but then Trump would just, it's sort of this, he's got absolutely no respect. But I what gets me, and here's the thing, that's not surprising from Trump. Like, it is completely unsurprising that he is going to ignore the format completely and do whatever the hell he wants. That's not surprising. What's surprising to me is that ABC is enabling it by, like, they could have just had his mic muted and he wouldn't be able to tell anybody anything. And you just say, hey, you're muted. No one's hearing you. It's not your turn to talk. With respect, I mean, okay, maybe someone can explain this to me. Why the hell do you treat your president like he's in something insanely special?
Well, there's a few different ways we could look at that.
I don't get it.
It's part of the structure thing, like the way they set it up in when they teach us about how government works in school, is that there's the entirety of Congress, all the elected officials, the Senate, the House, everybody. They're one branch of government. And then there's one guy who is just as important as all of those people, representing an entire other branch of government. Now, of course, it's not like that. There's the underlying bureaucracy is huge. Like, most of the work of the president is actually handled by the cabinet, and most of their work is handled by their undersecretaries and their staff and so forth.
Yeah.
But they set it up like the president is basically an elected king who is inconvenienced by having to deal with a parliament the same way the UK is set up,
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I just love in Australia, like, I think that the Prime Minister once got called a dickhead on the street, and it was just hilarious. Everybody loved it. Like, we do not have the respect for our Prime Minister. Like, you guys, you still call him Mr. President and stuff, and it's like, I think that Australians, we really do not have, that kind of, oh, he's somebody special. He's just a guy.
Well, yeah, that kind of, the Mr. President thing itself was a political change. Like, it was Thomas Jefferson who insisted on being called Mr. President to replace what Adams and Washington were called, which was Your Majesty.
Wow, really?
Uh-huh.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's not getting too far away from that monarchy thing, are we?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I've always found it odd the way that, like, the president's sort of supposed to be like this superhuman person. It's just a dude. It's just a guy. I mean, yeah, he deserves the respect that you give people in public service, but that doesn't mean, you can't call him a dickhead if he's being a dickhead. I'm sorry for swearing so much. It's just, but the thing that got me so angry was, why are you allowing him to, like, if he doesn't have the respect to adhere to the format of the debate, you don't owe him the respect to let him talk whenever he wants to, ex-president or not. Like, it doesn't matter, because he's just a person who's come to speak And if he's not respecting the format, you don't have to respect his desires, but they do, and I don't understand why.
I get that. I kind of feel the same way when we see that a lot in our own community, right? Like a bunch of atheists will be talking about something philosophical or getting all excited about a new science paper, whatever. And one random theist enters the chat and like everyone drops everything and rolls out a red carpet so this one person who's disrupting the stream can come on and make the ontological argument or the tag or fucking something. I'm like, why do you do that to a person who's going out of their way to be disrespectful of what's actually happening here? So
well, we had that guy in our chat, and to be honest with you, I mean, he was annoying me a little. I think him calling us delusional and stuff, that's too far. Like, time out for that person. But it's hilarious that eventually got to these laws, asked for citation, type the citation, and then he just leaves. Like, he just gets absolutely beaten down by, hey, show where this actually occurs. It's actually hilarious because he's like, oh, I'll send it to you by email. I'll send you this. I've got the law here. And absolutely 100% wrong. And he hasn't sent me any email, by the way. You know, like just hasn't. So, but I think that's hilarious.
Yeah,
and I think
you know,
moments of hilarity that I'm really after. But yeah, so next week, definitely, hey, if you enjoyed it, come over to Aurelius. If you want more election segments, come over to Embers next week. We'll be over there doing the second half, which will, I mean, I don't know how you top that. I'm sure it will get even more ridiculous. Because if one thing I've noticed about Trump is the longer he talks, the more ridiculous it gets. And that's definitely true. I think that Kamala was just amazing in her sort of reaching out to everybody. I think that, I think he had to say, hey, she's doing terribly, because Trump, as ridiculous as he is, he does realize when somebody is handing him his ass, and he was being absolutely devastated. So he's got to say, oh, you're doing badly right now. But why gaslight like that? You know what I mean? Like, why? All you're doing to a smart person, all you're doing is saying, hey, you're beating me and I don't like it. That's all you're doing. Sorry, you froze up a bit there, Ember. Are you still with us? Hello? I think we may have lost Ems or me. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll wrap it up then. I really would like to hear your thoughts, Em. So if it does come back, please do tell me. What do we got coming up? I do have to post on Monday night. I'm going to be interviewing the Kentucky atheist, Joe, of all people, who I didn't realize I've never interviewed before, and was a tremendous oversight on my part. So I really do apologize, but the Kentucky atheist will be on, and we'll be talking about religion and probably Kentucky, I would imagine. I do have aimbot. That is Tuesday night Eastern time. So that will be going. I do have my gaming channel going, where I've just completed Elden Ring. So I feel very, 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 very proud, incredibly proud. So that's going on, and I'm now playing a game called Green Hell. So if you do like games, come along. We chill out. We have fun. It's a good time. It's a good time. So yeah, all that's going on. I'm not sure what's coming up for Ems. I really do want you to tell us. It does seem to be, oh no, the picture's gone now. The interwebs are struggling. So I do apologize. I've lost my co-host. Maybe it's good that we're wrapping up if you're going downhill in a hurry. What time for what? What time for what now? What time Eastern Standard Time? Oh, 9 p.m. for the interview with Joe, Kentucky atheist. On my gaming channel, I usually start about so I usually do that at night when I've got a little bit of free time. Just intermittent days kind of thing. So I usually start about 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's in the morning because I have to do that at night. I can't do that at the day. Topic, just chatting. Oh, I'll have some questions to ask Joe, mostly around sort of his channel, his start, his background, but more than that, sort of where his channel goes, what it focuses on. And I really want to know about sort of being in the South and things like that, and sort of the experience that he's gone through. And I have a lot of questions for him. So yeah, I mean, we'll probably just chat as well, though, Maya. But thank you so much, everybody. I'm not sure if Ems, can you give me a thumbs up in chat if I'm okay to go out, or do you think you can recover? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Let's go. I might have to wrap it up. Ems, don't leave me. Don't leave me with the orange man, please. I'm begging you. Oh dear, technical issues always suck. Oh, you sent me back. Are you back? Just say something. Cat got your tongue?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, no. I heard you then. Are you hearing me? Maybe you're not hearing me. Maybe?
I'm hearing you in bits and pieces. Maybe.
Oh. Okay. We might be having some packet loss on Ember's side. So I'm Can we say goodbye to Ember? Bye-bye, Ember. No, let's come back. I need my co-host so badly. But thank you so much, everybody, for watching.
Okay, maybe.
That's better. Yeah, you're back. You're back. Well, I think we're just wrapping up. So
okay,
I've been talking
I think I got it.
Desperately wishing you back. So I've manifested Ember again to say goodbye. What do you got coming up, Ember? Just quickly take us through. What do you got coming up?
Oh shoot, bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, it's my day 200 since my legal documents came back. So I'm doing a show about that stuff that's been happening transition wise, answering questions anybody may have, and immediately after, the Atheist Lives interviews are going again. Tomorrow is Brentley, the punk apostate. It's been roughly a year since his first interview, and since the dates basically line up, I'm like, hey, you want to come back and do a re-up thing? And yes, he's always a ton of fun. If you haven't checked out his channel, it'll be a great time to get to meet him, get to know him. Of course, Thursdays, I'm over on the Transpositions doing the trans news, good news segment, much needed, fantastic stuff. When I can put the time into it. But yeah, we're doing that Thursdays 8 p.m. Eastern, and then next Saturday we'll have the debate review over on my channel, part 2 of this. And I'm also, because I'm not busy enough apparently, I've been putting stuff on my second channel, Book of Ember. I'm chronicling my transition and observations that I'm making. I'm starting to set up a third channel because I'm a crazy person, but I'll save that for another time when there's actually content to promote on it. But it should be very exciting. Yeah.
Can you give us a brief rundown of sort of what it is that the channel is going to be doing, or is it sort of just in the works at the moment? Is it just sort of
yeah, I actually have a clear plan on this one. It's going to be called Transparency Talk. Transparency. Because we in the trans community especially desperately need more good news, because there's so much static about hate and all that crap. I can only report on the news that makes the news on transpositions. So what I'm doing on this channel is interviewing other trans people to highlight their successes, to showcase their stories of inspiration, ways they've succeeded, and other things that not only spread positivity through the community, let us see more people like us rather than, you know, the people from GenSpect or the Helen Joyces or whatever who are on every damn channel all the time, constantly talking horrible things about our community, but also to normalize us, to show that we're just people. We're not baby eating, we're not dog eating, we're not anything eating, you know, we're just people.
Yeah.
So
no, the
I gotta,
trans people are not them, they're us. They're just us. They're just part of us. They're our society, they're our people. Just accept. It's fine.
yeah. And I think it's a really important thing to do for those reasons and more, but also because it's interviews, it's a thing that I actually will have the time to do. And that's a big problem that I've been having with making more content for my own main channel, is I just never have the damn time. And I know people will be like, why aren't you making content for your own channel? Interviews are literally the easiest thing to produce, because you bring another person on and you ask them questions and then they answer them. So that's a thing I can actually do. And I think it'll help in a very meaningful way. Now, don't get me wrong. I love debunking pseudoscience, and I'm not going to stop doing that when there's time. But, you know, a lot of people can debunk pseudoscience. A lot of people can counter apologetics. But nobody is highlighting the positive stories of trans people. That's a thing that needs to exist that I can do.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. Well, I kind of disagree. I think debating is actually the easiest thing I can do. I find it very, very natural and easy. But, you know, that's my personal... Your experience may differ. I got to admit that. So, but thank you so much, Ember. It's always a pleasure to have you here. I'll be on your channel next week, and we will go through the second part. I do apologize it went so slow. I kind of expected us to do it in one hit. I don't know why I did. Every time I think we're going to finish in one, but we never do. So... my bad.
Such is life. That's all right. Well, you actually spared our audience, because I was queuing up a Charlie Kirk debate for next week, and I'm like, you know what?
No.
Let's do part 2 of this. Yes, let's do that.
Oh no. All right. Well, we can look forward to that. Look forward to that. But don't forget to be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. Don't eat dogs or cats. Be kind to the dogs and cats. Not that anybody is, but if you were thinking about it because the Haitians are doing it, well, the Haitians aren't actually doing it. So be kind. All right, everybody, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
folks.